Hey everybody, it's your friendly pal Ashley, and welcome back to my review channel, Ashley's Critical Hits. And today I'm going to be doing the game review for World of Final Fantasy for the PlayStation Vita. I've played the game. I've gotten to the point where I can actually review the game and give you kind of like my thoughts on it. I haven't completely officially beaten it yet, but at this point, like, I'm pretty close. So I'm just gonna, go through and let you guys know how I actually feel about the game. So, let's just dive right in. So while playing the world of Final Fantasy for the PlayStation Vita, I've been on the fence about if it's actually a good game or not. Well, the character aesthetic and the gameplay isn't all that bad. The game has such terrible puns and terrible jokes that it makes me cringe every time I have to read dialogue. So it leaves me questioning like what the actual Japanese dialogue was like, and like what the differences of translation are, because I feel like the people who translated this game, like, not to knock the localization team or anything, but I feel like they buttered this game up way too much, because, for such a serious game about these two kids who have amnesia, just the sheer amount of jokes in this game that are terrible makes it kind of the butt of its own bad joke, and it makes it a terrible RPG to play. And the tedious battles through the dungeons, and how every time you go into a new dungeon, there's an optional area. When you try to go to that optional area, you have to do like 3 to 4 battles on your way there to get to the end to get the treasure chest, and then 3 to 4 battles on the way back. And it's like, really, like, I, not for nothing, I love Final Fantasy games, I love RPGs, but the sheer amount of battles in this game, like, are cumbersome to the random battle system. Like, it just doesn't, like, it doesn't make for like all that great of a playthrough. And then one of the other things is that it suffers from like Pokemon syndrome or Nino Kuni syndrome, because there are too many mirages to capture, which are the characters that you like get, to battle with you. There's too many of them to capture and not enough game to level them all up. Like, it makes you, it forces you to basically level grind like every RPG, but if you're not interested in doing that, then it's definitely not easy to get them all leveled up. Like, like, I stick with a set of like 6 to 8 mirages that I use and have used throughout the game, and it makes it awful. Like, it's pretty terrible. And then, the story of World of Final Fantasy is just so bizarre and strange that it's hard to keep all the characters and the storyline straight. Um, but I mean, the main plot centers around these twins, Lon and Rain, who are two teenagers that wake up in the Wood Hills area with amnesia, and then they meet a small mirage called Tanma, who helps them on their quest to figure out what happened to the world and where their mom is. So it's not too complicated of a plot, but all of the bad jokes make it really hard to not rush through all of the dialogue. And I mean, it's just so bogglingly terrible. Sorry, excuse me. I just kind of fell over that word. Um, I mean, and then, with it also, the plot, the way that it goes, is like these kids meet a bunch of other Final Fantasy characters, and some of them are like the head honchos of certain towns or villages, others you just kind of meet along the way, and like there are a lot of interactions, and some of them are good, some of them are but like my favorite ones were the ones with Bartz and Boko, which are, characters that are actually quite cute and funny. Boko being the chocobo and Bartz being the character. And then there's Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, which he's not as much of a useless character as he is in Final Fantasy VII. Like, I know people love Final Fantasy VII, they put it to such a high standard, but like, Cloud is the most useless main character in a game I have ever played, and yes, I have beaten it several times, and he's just useless. No offense to those who love him, that's just my opinion, he's just useless. But in every other game he's in, he's pretty helpful, and he's not emo like he is in his own game. Um, and then there's Titus from, and I've heard it pronounced two different ways, Titus or Titus. His name is actually pronounced Titus. That's how it's pronounced because of tidal wave. That is what he's named after. It's not Titus, it's Titus. And those who, like, did the localization and the voice acting for Final Fantasy VII, or Final Fantasy X, they've been pronouncing it wrong the entire time. It's Titus, just so you know. And then one other character that I love hate is Gilgamesh, the one who, like, the character that fights against Bartz and Boko. He is just so over the top for me, to the point that I spit out my drink I was sipping on when he showed up in all of his Kabuki warrior glory. Like, this character is insane. Like, look at him. He's crazy. But the saving grace to the game is actually the Final Fantasy characters that you, like, encounter on the way, and the side quests that involve those characters. And then the active time battle system and how mirages actually work. So, like, more often than not, I was in the chibi form of my characters, stacked with the several mirages I normally use, and it got to the point where I never had to worry about dying, because the way that my characters stacked and the way that I used them, there was no real disadvantage other than not having, the opportunity, not as many opportunities to make attack or healing moves if you, like, separated them all out. But the game's really not all that hard to begin with anyway, so those extras attacks and healing moves weren't really necessary. Like, I would get through boss battles in like 5 minutes because my characters that I used, that I powered up since the beginning of the game, have been overpowered, so it's just like, okay, bosses are easy. And then the only, one of the biggest things that I enjoyed watching over and over again was the Chibi Sephiroth cutscene, because it, like, you couldn't skip that one. It wouldn't let you skip it like it would let you skip the other ones. So it shows the entire Sephiroth cutscene like you would see in Final Fantasy VII when he's burning down Nibelheim. And it is just so cute because he's so tiny. He's not so menacing. Like, he looks menacing, but he's not because he's so tiny. But he does a lot of damage. So every time with the whole Champions Medal thing, Sephiroth would be my go-to to use every single time, depending on, like, what the boss's or what the enemy's weakness was. So, I mean, there was that too. And then overall, for an RPG, World of Final Fantasy has decent mechanics, but the story is pretty bland. I mean, out of the entire plot of the game, the side quests are the best part, with quirky subplots and interesting turns of events. I mean, my favorite being, again, of Bartz and Boko, and then of Riku and Ifrit. They had a scene together, and Bartz, Boko, and Riku make a mistake, or they, mistake Ifrit's attempt to attack the other Mirages to keep them out of his battle with these characters as saving their lives. And it's a pretty funny side story. Like, Ifrit's like, "What are you doing here?" And then, Riku, Bartz, and Boko are like, "Well, we're looking for treasure." And then Ifrit's like, well, you shouldn't be here, I'm gonna burn you if you don't go away, and then other Mirages show up, and then he obliterates them, and then the characters are like, oh my god, Ifrit, you saved our lives, thank you, and he's like, you're mistaking what I'm doing, what are you doing? Like, get out of here. And it goes on to this funny dialogue between the two, like between the four of them, and it's just really funny. Um, but while the game's chibi aesthetic has quite a pull on like my cutesy heartstrings, the game itself it just isn't a true Final Fantasy, and I think that's what they meant for it, and I think that's, with it's more of like an introduction for younger players to get into the Final Fantasy games, because like it's so easy to kind of get through everything. Like there's maybe been one boss that I had like issues with, but that was way early on before I was even overpowered, and now I'm overpowered and it's just like meh. Okay, I mean, I'm breezing through the rest of this. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe the World of Final Fantasy Maxima version for the Nintendo Switch fixed a lot of the problems I have with the game, but I won't know that because I don't plan on buying another copy of this game. I don't even care that it's like an updated version of the game. I'm not gonna buy another copy of this game, because with all the other games coming out, I don't want to replay the same game over again and waste my time, even though like and I've already played it and I already am kind of reviewing it, and it's not my cup of tea as far as like this type of RPG game goes. um you know and I'm trying to get my thoughts together here, sorry. With the game itself, it's like I said, it's for beginners. It's not for anybody who's a seasoned player. It's kind of like how Mystic Quest was on the SNES. It's for people who haven't played an RPG before, haven't played a Final Fantasy before, and if they want a jumping in point, this is where they go. But other than that, I mean, I give this game like a meh, I take it or leave it, because I mean there are some interesting aspects of it, but most of the game is kind of it's kind of, yeah, okay, I'll play it and I'll get through it and it's okay. There's pretty decent mechanics here, but the story, you kind of needed to fix that a little bit. But other than that, that's where I'm gonna leave this review. If you're interested in more of my game reviews, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to join the conversation about the game or have general questions about it, please leave me a comment below. Make sure you check out my other channel for my Let's Play videos at What Should We Play Today. And you can check out my website at www.moondustpixelworks.com. And both I'm going to link in the description down below. Thanks for watching. And stay tuned for my other review coming up next weekend. I plan on doing the review for Call of Cthulhu for the PlayStation 4 on February. It'll be February 3rd is when that video will drop. So please check that out when it drops, and I will see you guys later. Bye.